I was only going to do one of these today, but I thought of another good one. Governor Roy Cooper. Governor Roy Cooper. What a douchebag. And I love to stop it just right there. Remember Roy Rogers? You remember there are guys who are good old cowboys. Good old all-American cowboys, like with the name Roy and Duke and all these guys. Roy Cooper is not a good old cowboy. Roy Cooper is a radical liberal. Okay? Radical liberal. I found out something about him yesterday that makes me want to vomit. But I'm not going to talk about that here. Because what I really want to talk about is his executive order to shut down things in North Carolina. Well, I read a lot of that executive order. And my criticism isn't just of him. Criticism is also of church leadership in this country. And I'm talking about all denominations, and I'm talking about even the ones that are saved. Okay. So first of all, the first point I want to get to, and this by no means means stop going to church. The Bible commands do not give up on assembling amongst each other. But the Bible also does not say, oh, but just stay home and watch church on the internet. You know, I was curious as to why it was. Governor Cooper originally had the limit to 50 people. But then there was a 10 people rule. But the church stayed shut down. Until I read deeper into the executive order and found that Governor Cooper not only had the 50-person limit in the state, he was all too happy to have a 10 limit with that Trump put down. But then he also, in his executive order, threatened to go after churches and take away their 501(c)(3) if they even had 9 people assembled together. And here's the problems that I have with this. Well, first of all of the restrictions are a violation of everybody's civil liberties. He could have said, look, I don't have the right shut down the schools. I don't have any evidence to believe that shutting down schools isn't going to do any good. In fact, we know now kids aren't even vulnerable to it. Say, one kid died. Oh my God, one kid died. Let's shut down all the schools because one kid died. Talk about one kid dying like 1,000,000 kids died, or even 1,000. Have we lost our minds? People literally talk like one person in one age group dies, and it's the end of the world. More kids died last year because of cars not stopping for the school bus stop sign. Want to see the outrage over that? Huh? Because the same people who make a big deal out of one death are all liberals who are trying to get Trump unelected as president. That's all this is really about anyway. All of it is. You go to work and you hear this. Anybody at work who sits there and makes a big sticking deal out of one person dying. Is that sad? Sure it is. Is it a reason to shut down the whole country, take it hostage? No. Everybody who makes a big deal out of one death. Here's the real reason why. You're a Marxist. You don't even know it. Okay? And you're trying to spread this dynamic and this mindset that we got to get Trump out of office. Because every time we make a big fuss out of this, it's going to be blamed on him. Well, that's not even true. Because statistics show that it's actually helping Trump because people with common sense aren't blaming it on him. I don't like Trump. Has nothing to do with him. The president, nothing to do with him. All the evidence is out there that COVID-19 is nowhere near as serious as everybody's making it out to be. You're a Trump supporter. How am I a Trump supporter? How am I a Trump supporter? Because I'm talking truth? He's president. Okay, so what? What's that got to do with him being a Trump supporter? Huh? How's that? What did I say to support Trump? I just said he had nothing to do with it. And it's fake. The whole thing's a fake generated story. So, Governor Cooper in his executive order. So he threatens to take away the 501(c) designation from any church that meets even 9 people. Well, I thought your executive order says as long as it's 10 or less. So how is that? I got news for you. If anybody had any sense, they would sue this prick into jail. And the other thing is, yes, go to church. Yes, nobody's perfect. The church leadership in this country is weak, and that's putting it mildly. I talked to a pastor recently. Bob, you think you're talking out of a little bit of pride here? I sense some pride here. Why? Because I told him, well, why? I was at work, and I heard Governor Cooper's executive order, and that night, churches shut down. After much prayerful consideration, we prayerfully decided to shut down. Nope. Sorry, bud. You're afraid of getting sued. And you're afraid of your 501(c) tax exemption being taken away. That's why you shut down. And you know something? If the churches in this country would have just been men and stood up for what was right, you could have prevented a lot of this. But y'all were a bunch of cowards. And people are cowards. I'm not impugning your character by even saying that. Everybody's a coward at some point in time. But you missed a golden opportunity to stand up and show Jesus in this world today. And you're also aiding and abetting all this other nonsense and hysteria. And statistics show that the divorce rate because of the lockdown went up 34%. And although there are multiple shoulders for that, the church leadership is definitely one of them. And what do I get? I get this blame-shifting nonsense. I think you're speaking out of pride. I think that maybe there's a little bit of, what do you call it, a rant? I'm ranting now. All I said to the guy was, I think your motivation for doing it was because you're scared. Everybody gets scared. Right? So now you're trying to criticize me and accuse me of this and that? And then guess what else he said to me? This is the very reason why I think every leader at this church needs to resign and apologize for their cowardice. Because a church leader who is a leader should say, you know something? We need to convene a panel of all of our membership that disagree with this decision and thinks that we were sinning in doing it, and sit down and ask the commission, the people, whether or not we should resign from our positions or what to do right in the future. You know what I got? I got, well, if you aren't happy with the leadership of this church, then you can go someplace else. That's right. That's a head shaker. A church leadership that says, well, if you don't like it, you can go someplace else. That's not what a leader does. That's what a coward does. So, the last thing I want to say is this. I always try to speak in the middle when I'm talking with people that may or may not agree with me, because I want to appear what I am, objective. I'll leave you with this last thought. And I'm going to use the example of the church just because of the way that they did it. It was immediate. It was tail between the legs, running scared. Okay, I'll leave it right there. I'm not trying to criticize or unduly criticize the church. I'm not here to do that. Go to church. If you're not in church, find one. Nobody is perfect. Don't ever use the fact that church leadership across this country was scared and just bow down, don't use that as an excuse not to go to church. They're great people and they have great character. But in this particular case, they were David and Bathsheba. Okay. David was a great man of God. It'd be a sin to judge somebody because of one mistake. Okay. Don't ever think any of my criticisms of the church are an excuse not to go. Ever. That's disgusting to me. But the way they turned around and just submitted. I say this to you. If the liberals were right, and they aren't, then all this protection and safety and all this other stuff would have been a necessary response to a legitimate global pandemic. But if we're right, that 90% of this was all a hoax and a political football because it's an election year, then all of this control, locking down, keeping people in their homes, frightening people to death, closing down school, is darn scary. It's darn scary to think of the way that people submitted to it. It's darn scary. You know what's going to happen? The minute one of these people who believes in this garbage with COVID-19 becomes president again, this country is over. So, hey, we did it when a Republican was in the White House. Now you're going to see what's going to happen for real. There was no pushback. Period. And the only state I can think of that really stood up for anything that I know of is South Carolina. Oh, and South Dakota, but South Dakota doesn't count as much as South Carolina. Nobody lives in South Dakota. They social distance in South Dakota. There ain't enough people to be within 6 feet of each other. So it's mostly natural. And everything Governor Cooper did was wrong. And guess what? He opened up everything else. Oh, the churches too. No. The churches had to sue and won in court to open up. That's right. And the reason why things are opening up now is because there's an election in about 45 days. And Governor Idiot Cooper is trying to save his hide to get reelected. The way everybody submitted to this is scary. Because now that they've seen what they can do, what did Benjamin Franklin say on the steps of Constitution Hall in Philadelphia when they'd been in deliberations for 8 hours? And people were anxiously waiting outside to find out what was going on. He steps out on he comes out on the steps, and a woman asks him, "So what's happened?" He said these words to her. He said, "You have a republic. You have a republic, but only as long as you can keep it. With what we've seen, with the way everybody cowered in and submitted to all these restrictions without any basis or evidence, it's darn scary." Oh, one last thing. I talked about Governor Cooper shutting down the schools. How do you know that that's going to do any good when you have no research to show that it will? What, at that point, when it happened, and all these other states did the same thing, what evidence did they have that shutting down the schools was going to help anything? You know what? It hurt. Because I wouldn't have done it, because I would have said the following sentence. Who's the high-risk group? Elderly. Parents are at work, right? So where are the kids going to go when they're out of school? Rich, help me out here. They're going to be taken care of by the grandparents. How stupid. Same thing as Cuomo. Governor Cooper shut down schools. Why? Because he wanted more fatalities. Same reason why Cuomo and Newsom put COVID-19 patients in with nursing homes when they had hospitals ready to go to kill more people. And you know what else I think? I think that Pelosi and Schumer and de Blasio and Cuomo, all these people, Clintons, have no right to engineer this whole thing. They ought to be subject to criminal prosecution. And that is all I have to say.